Well, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Papa's Workshop. These are for Adam, Brady, Luke, and Brenna. And then we have a birthday. It's Adam's birthday. He's the oldest. Just turned 13. So anyway, we wish him a happy birthday, and let's check in with my assistant. There she is, hard at work. Aren't you, girl? Oh, it's not anything. Oh, it's my good Molly girl. Yeah, she is a good assistant, isn't she? All right, well, let's get to work. Well, here we are. We got the case just dry assembled. I don't have the blades pound all the way, and I just was looking at how it did, but there's the dovetails, the blind dovetails for the top, and there's going to be molding that goes right across this front, but it's just barely going to hit this edge, so I'm going to put a piece in there like this to fill that gap. I've got a rabbet, if you can see that in there. This little recess is the rabbet, but it's not. I need to trim that up a little. I cut that on the table saw. Now I need to hand plane this one edge and get it so that this piece fits in there. See, I'm just a shade too tight. And then we still have the drawer runners to do. Also, I took a hand plane, and we had the bead here going all the way up. I shaved that off. See, it's not quite all the way flush there, but I'll have to get that. And the same there. So we'll fit that piece and then work on the drawer runners. We got to finish up the case today. The major thing left to do is the drawer runners. So we got the drawer runners to do in. I cut these to length. I measured the distance with the two horizontal pieces installed. I measured the distance between them. But we have to allow for the side it's not going to change much in this direction, but it's going to change this way across the grain. An unfinished panel like this, if you went from a really dry winter with no humidifier, just so there'd be like 5% humidity, and then you went to a real humid summer like we have, and you weren't using air conditioning and it was exposed, and an unfinished panel like this, this 18 inches would change as much as 1/4 of an inch between the two seasons. That much. Now, today's heating and cooling systems, this won't really see that much, those two extremes. And then when it's finished, it's going to have finish on only one side. We don't really finish the inside, and that helps a little bit. But we still have to let it move. And the panel is probably as narrow as it's going to be, since it's winter, it's December. But I still feel like I need to leave some room. So I'm going to subtract from this distance here between the two, I'm going to subtract 3/16 of an inch. So that'll give it room to move. So we're going to take that measurement, subtract 3/16, and then add the 3/4 inch tendon on each end. So that's 1.5 inches, right? Makes sense? So I need to put a 3/4 tendon on the end of these, and then we'll be able to fit them. These all should fit in the slots, yeah. So that's what's on the agenda. And that last little piece, that little filler piece I was going to put on the top, in the end I decided to cut off the dovetail. That too many dovetails right up on the top there, and I'm afraid it was going to weaken that corner. This will be glued on the edge. That'll be enough to hold it. I can put a couple of cut nails down through the top to hold it there. But all this is a backing for the molding that'll go on later. So that's done. So let's work on these guys. First thing I'm going to do is on the table saw is cut back 3/4 of an inch and make my cuts this way. The tendon's going to be 5/16 thick, so I'll just go in that far, and then we'll use a tendoning jig and cut this way and fine-tune the thickness. At least get as close, and then we can fine-tune by hand. All right, we got the tendons cut there. See, I have a little trimming to do to get some of the debris off, and then I have to actually fit it to each of the two the horizontal pieces. Any differences in the mortise. So that's what it'll look like when it's fitted. It'll be tight up against the front, and it'll be glued just in the front. It'll just sit in that. Sit in the trough, and then there'll be a 3/16 gap in the back. So as the whole side moves, that gap can close up or get bigger. It'll probably get bigger, but better safe than sorry. So that's what I have to do, is just go through and fit the rest of these, test fit them all like that, and then we're ready for the next step. We got those all fit. There was one I had a little error, so I had to just add a little piece of wood on there and then refit it. I'm not sure what happened, but the tendon was too thin. Anyway, so those are all fit, and I did, when I had them fit against the longer horizontal parts, I made sure they were flush with each other. I took a hand plane and trimmed it if it needed it. So that's all set. Now, before I need to glue the bottom together. I got the front cherry strip, and then the main bottom is poplar. So I need to glue that. But before I do that, I need to position it on the frame, right? Because we're going to stay that rigid. So let's do that. Before I glue the bottom and the front edge together, one of the reasons I kept them separate was so I could do this. This is the front frame piece that we did earlier. We did that first, and I took the drawer template and drew a line where the drawer front should be, and that's what this inner edge of this is the bottom piece. And what I'm going to do is drill a hole, 2 holes, and put a dowel in there, and that will give me repeatability during when I'm going to do the frame. I can set this on there, and because I need to know where the end of the case is to do the miters. So that'll give me the repeatability. And we're going to secure this with 3 screws also, which is probably 1 in the center, 2 on the outside. That'll hold the front of the case even with the front of the frame. Everything else will be allowed to move. All the other screws between the case and the frame will have slots so that it can move. But these ones up at the front, we want that relationship to stay the same. We need those break points all have to line up. So I could have done that with the bottom glued on, but then it begins to be awkward. So I just put this in the drill press and drill those holes, and then we'll put a dowel in the frame and glue that in there, and then we'll be ready to glue the bottom together. All right, so here's the bottom. We got it drilled. Oh. So I got the 2 dowel holes, and then I put the 3 screw holes in it, and I glued it. So I need to just take a scraper and clean up that glue line, and I started doing the beads. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The other thing I did is I went ahead, and what I do on most of my pieces is I carved my name and the date, month anyway, of when it was made. It's easier to do that when this piece is flat instead of when it's a whole big case. So the bottom just needs to be cleaned up, and we're ready for that. So that leaves us with a couple of things that need to be done. We need to, it's easier to round these beads when these pieces are separate. You could do it when the case is all done, but we're gonna round those next. And then I need to do a dovetail on we got these 2 boards on the top. Well, the one in the back, we're gonna put a dovetail, a slotted dovetail, back 3-4 inches, and then we're going to make a matching butterfly. So it's a dovetail on one side, and then also from the top. So it looks like that. It looks like a butterfly, and so we'll slip that in on the back and glue it, and so then the top will slide in on those 2 butterflies sticking up, and then we'll screw it in the front, but then that lets the top move. But again, it's easier to cut those dovetails when these are separate. So we'll do that, and then we have to sand. We've got to get this, clean all of these up, either the scraper or just sandpaper by hand, and get all the parts that are going to be on the inside cleaned up. Again, it's easier to do that when it's separate pieces. And that's it. Oh, the screw holes. I've got the screw holes in the bottom for the front of the frame, but I need to put some slotted screw holes in on the sides and the back. So I need to do that. So we got those 3 things to do. So let's work on these and get this bead, and that is done. Here, let's get a close-up. To round these over, we're going to use a beading tool. Whoops. There. I had taken the blade out because some of these ones down in the curves, you got to do it by hand. It just doesn't help. So let me put this back in there. And get it lined up. This is kind of a fancy one. You can really make your own. It's called a scratch stock. You could just use old hacksaw blade to file the shape you want, and then just a block of wood to hold it. But that's all this is just a thin. It's a little thicker than a hacksaw blade would be, but the same idea. It's going to be held at an angle, and it's just going to scrape off the edges. And I got this one made. I got it to the right width to go in between the 2 to help me clean that up. So it's just a matter of scraping it, but you need to see which way the grain is going. And this one, it's kind of going down this way, and so you want to go. If I go against the grain, if I go this way and the grain is sticking up, it's going to try to pull chunks. So you always want to go kind of downhill, and by downhill, it's if you think of those lines as being straight, then I'm going down, right? And then on these curves, I want to go downhill, And so on this one, even though the grain's going the wrong way, I've got to go downhill on this curve. This tool won't let me really get all the way down in there, so I have to kind of hold that by hand and do that. And then on these curves too, I want to go downhill this way, downhill this way. So it's just a matter of putting that in there. Let's see, I just get these little shavings off. That's all there is to it. Just get it down just a little bit more. And a little sandpaper, and that'll work fine. And then I got to get, like I said, I got to use these by hand and get that and then I'll have to take a chisel and get that actually define that corner, because we want again, we want a sharp corner in there. So I got some work to do to get all those done, and we'll check in after that. All right, we got all the beads rounded up, so that's kind of what they look like when it's all sanded. We got a nice bead on both sides. So we got all that done, and then along the sides had the bead as well, so I got those all rounded. So I'm ready to drill the holes for the bottom. And this is the side frame, so that's going to go underneath there like that, and there's one for the other side. And they really could have been, I ran into the problem with the wood. Remember, we had the wood splitting on us, so the frame's a little thinner than I would have wanted. So we're going to be pretty close to the edge, and the drawers have to slide on that. So, but it is what it is. What I'm going to use is a screw with a washer in there. So we're going to have to make a recess that's going to let the whole thing move. Once we screw into the frame, since the frame's got the grain going this way, that's not going to change. So where we put the screw is going to stay, but this bottom is going to change. So we need to have a little bit of slop in there, going this way, to let this bottom move when the screw stays still. So we're going to drill the diameter of this washer a 1/4 inch down on two places, and then we'll take a chisel and straighten that out, and we'll do that on the back. It's going to have a little bit more travel back there, and then we'll drill a smaller hole, the diameter of the screw, through the center, and make a slot the same way. So I'll do that on the drill press, and then we'll clean this bottom up, and then we'll be ready to think about gluing it up finally. Okay, we got the recess cut in there, so now I'll just take a chisel and straighten those little pieces right there, and then we'll use those center holes to drill the smaller holes. All right, so here's one that's been trimmed, and then I've drilled the smaller holes, and so now we need to chop that out. And since it goes through, we chop down a little bit from this side, then flip it and go from the other side. So here's one that's finished, and you can see the screw goes all the way from one side to the other, and that's what we want. And it's not sticking up, so that the drawer can slide over that. So I just need to finish the other ones and then clean that board up. The bottom all done, and thought we were ready to glue, but we're not. I got to do something with the top. The top is going to be, well, that's one of the pieces. I got two pieces like this, but there's a gap about this big in between, and I'm going to put that butterfly, that slotted dovetail on the top, and I feel like I need to support it in the middle a little bit to keep the top from bowing up. So I had this piece left over from that's what I cut off the bottom. So it's already the same, it's already the correct length and thickness. So I think I'm going to put that in the middle, just a couple dovetails on and that'll keep the sides from bowing out. And then when the case is all glued up, I'll put a dovetail all the way from the back to here and make it a tapered dovetail, so we can pound the strip in this way and glue it, and then the top can slide in that way. But because of the spacing, I kind of need to have it all glued up, and we'll do it with the handheld router. So the only thing I need to do is quickly put some dovetails on the case, and then we're ready to glue finally. All right, I think we are finally ready to glue up, and as you can see, there is a lot of parts. We did a lot of work to get to this point. There is just joinery all over this. These are the two sides. We got the bottom, the three pieces for the top, and then each of the blades. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 sets for the blades, and then that little filler piece. So if we were in a super hurry, we could do this all at once, but I am not in a super hurry. So what we're going to do is just do the top and the bottom to the sides. We're just going to make the outside of the case, make sure it's square, and let that dry for a bit before we start pounding the rest of this stuff in. But once that's done, then we'll set this front blades in flush with the front of the case, and let that dry a little bit because then we have to pound in the drawer runners and the blade pieces in the back as the last step. So we'll just do it in those 3 stages. That way there won't be any risk of anything going wrong. So let me clear the bench and we'll start up. All right, I got everything together to glue up. And we've done a test fit, and we're going to the bathroom. Everything else, we're ready to glue up because we don't want any interruptions for the next 10 minutes. So all I need to do is put glue on the sides of the dovetails. The other parts are end grain. It won't hold anything, so it's just the sides. A little dab on each side, and then we'll just start assembling. All right, it's been about an hour, so the case should be good and dry. So now we're going to do the blades, or the front part of the blades. So I'm going to use this little block of wood. Fits in between the 2 beads so I don't damage them, to pound it down, and then when I get to the bottom, this will get it flush. We want to get those dovetails flush. So you just have to do those one at a time. Here we are the next morning. We got the cases glued up. We got the blades in. I still will have to scrape that, get those all nice and flush, and work on the corners where the bead meets. But at some point, I glued in that little strip. In the end, I decided not to put a dovetail there. It's too close to the end grain. It's too close to this one, and we've got the dovetails up there. I figured all this is there is to support the molding that's going to go there. So the glue should be enough. I can put a couple of brads in if I want later. But so the only thing I got left to glue up is the blade insides, and I've done the top two. So what we're going to do is let's see, I got them all marked. So we're going to just put glue on this one tendon, not anywhere else, just this one tendon. We're going to stick it in there, do the same in the other, and then put the back strip on, just gluing the two dovetails, not the tendons. We want that case to be able to move in and out, so this will move with that out, and see there's a little gap there, so that it's going to let this shrink if it's going to shrink anymore. Hopefully it doesn't too much, but then as it expands in the summer, that'll be there. So I'm going to put those two in, and then we'll be ready to start on the next phase. We could do the drawer fronts or do the frame. I'm going to start with the frame and the bracket feet.